Why do you play video games? In this video, I'm going to help you unpick why you're a gamer. And I'm going to help you do that by us thinking about the needs that are being met when we're gaming. Watching and understanding this video is going to give you more intention behind your gaming, give you more self-compassion on the meaning behind it, and maybe even give you some control to meet those needs in other ways if you feel your gaming is verging into addiction. It's not going to be an uncomfortable video to listen to, and I'm going to spend most of it actually advocating that gaming can be pretty good for our mental health if we're balancing it with a healthy life, rather than giving this sense that there's anything wrong with you. You can watch the entire video or use the timestamps to jump to different sections. I'll also make a second part of this video with more reasons why you game, and you can read the whole article on my website with a link in the doobly-doo. To introduce myself, I'm Simon. I'm a person-centred counsellor based online or in Oxford. I work a lot with addiction, neurodiversity and geek culture, and I'm myself a casual gamer. In the background of this video, I'm playing Dark Souls 3, trying to beat the Dancer, a fairly late game boss, early in order to take her slightly mediocre weapon, the Enchanted Blades. I've always wanted to make a Dark Souls challenge video like the content creators I so admire, and now I can. And then later in the video we'll switch to some Sega Mega Drive like Streets of Rage 2. So, the intro. Recent statistics suggest that video games are enjoyed by 10.84 million people in the UK, which is more than 1 in every 7. With mobile gaming as well as console, video games are increasingly part of our life, and a significant way that many of us spend our free time. However, there can be some stigma attached to gaming, and gaming disorder was recently added to the ICD-11 as an official medical diagnosis, a form of addiction. We might experience criticism if we spend too much time gaming, and often when clients first tell me about their gaming, I almost sense a shame in them talking about it. In fact, they often seem to wonder why they game, and if it's a therapy-worthy topic to bring. Rather than shame, I find myself actually intrigued and wanting to explore that aspect of their lives with them. How we spend our downtime really speaks to us about our needs and what is or isn't being met in our lives. We just usually don't sit there and reflect on why we do the things we do, including gaming. So here are some quick questions for us to ask to get us started. Firstly, what games are you playing? What's the genre, the state of mind that the game puts you in? Is it an online game? Is it multiplayer or single? Is it a cooperative game or a competitive one? A game that you've played before and you're returning to, or is it something new? Secondly, when do you play video games? Is it a mobile game that you briefly play while you're on the loo? A ritual for an hour or so when you're back from work? A long gaming session on the weekend? A meet-up with friends? Is it something you play when you're stressed? Or maybe it's a rare treat to game? And then finally, what kind of needs are being met with this game? And this is where we're going to spend the bulk of this video, because we don't consciously go around saying, I'm going to play Dark Souls because I'm looking for a sense of challenge and mastery, or I'm going to reopen that save on Animal Crossing because my life just feels really hectic at the moment and I'm looking to slow down and have some predictability. As I say, my real hope is that in listening to this, that you might gain some more awareness of the processes that are happening within you when you game, and that will help you realise why you game and give you some control over it. And if you fancy a counselling session with me, where we use your favourite video game, or what you're currently playing to explore aspects of yourself, then I'd very much love that. You can also do this with any media or hobbies you have use the same sort of reflective process to think about the needs that are being met. So let's begin. The first need is dissociation and escapism. Video games are incredibly engaging. A book uses your eyes to read and your hands to turn the page. A film uses your ears to hear it and your eyes to see it. Whereas a video game is using all of those senses and even more. It's using your eyes with the vibrant images that dash across the screen. It's using your ears, maybe even with headphones on, to immerse yourself in the world. It's using your fingers, your hands on the controller. And the biggest aspect of gaming compared to television is that you directly control the story and how it plays out. It engages your senses, your planning brain, your reactions, and we even begin to identify and project ourselves onto the protagonist in a way that doesn't happen with other forms of media. All of this creates an incredibly strong way to immerse yourself into a game world and leave your own life in a process named transportation. And in the modern world, life can be hard. It can be intense, it can be consuming. School, work, relationships, family, losses, health, dread from the news of the world around us, pretenses we need to keep up with on social media, this never-ending to-do list, and the worries about our mental health that can battle and plague us. When we have a lot of stresses in our lives, being in them constantly, it can be overwhelming. It's like we're diving without that vital gasp of air to keep us alive. And video games, they offer an escape from that. A chance to be someone else in a world with clear rules and no real consequences. Video games are a console that we can turn on whenever we're free and quickly leave our own thinking mind to play as someone else. To be a character who will still face challenges and obstacles, yes, but they have a clear path to follow and they can overcome those obstacles for fun, rather than being this overwhelming blockade we might experience in reality. I mentioned dissociation in the title. Now, dissociation, it's an unconscious method that the human being uses to protect itself from trauma or from overwhelming information. It's a sense of disconnection from oneself, as though things aren't real. Depersonalization, derealization, being an observer on yourself, being on autopilot, and numbness. The thing about dissociation, though, is that it happens without your control, and it can often be quite distressing. Whereas disconnecting using video games allows us a controlled break from reality to a different world that can shift our state of mind. What I'm not saying is that video games are a proven treatment for dissociative disorders. Dissociative disorders, in fact, often benefit from treatments that are far more grounding and offer some exploratory work around what we're dissociating from. But what I am saying is that if we push ourselves, if the world's too overwhelming, if we don't have a means of escaping to protect the self, then we risk overwhelm, and then burnout, and then finally dissociation. And dissociation through video games, well, that offers a respite in a way that we can control. Escapism, or switching off through video games, has other benefits as well. Video games, they occupy much of the brain, but it still allows us to process and think, and that can spur our creativity. Play can also be restful, and that rest is needed to pause and regenerate when we've been working or busy. It engages many senses, and this can act like a mindfulness where busy thoughts are left and you can be fully in the moment with your character. All of these are real clear benefits from the escapism, or pausing, that video games provide. The danger is if we prioritise escaping to video games so much that it goes and ends up taking over our reality or the thing we're escaping from. But what I'm saying is that in sustainable doses, gaming escapism can serve to help us be more grounded by resting from our stressors. So that's it, that's the first need. Are you using games as a way of escaping or pausing from life? The second reason you might game is mastery. The world is full of options. Our career, our hobbies, our interest, our family. And if we go on social media or the internet, we will encounter experts in each of these choices. We investigate them only to feel naive or mediocre. And this feeling only intensifies as we immerse ourselves in an option, only to find out just how little about it we actually know. You might have heard it quoted that it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert on something, an intimidatingly large number that only reinforces a reality that we're unlikely to have the time, dedication, resources, or opportunity to truly become a master in something. Instead of being a master of a subject, we're met with competition in the real world and difficulties breaking through, often for reasons that are slightly beyond our control. And this can create a despondency that we may never actually master anything. As a solution, introducing video games. Do you want to be a Premier League footballer or a football manager? Pick up FIFA. How about a skilled musician playing on stage? Try Rock Band. Do you want to be a heroic fantasy adventurer battling against the odds? Get good at Dark Souls. A disciplined soldier with a rock-steady aim even when they're running? Play some Call of Duty. Video games, they put you in control of a character who is skilled at their craft. You're already a master, and you get to be the main character, the protagonist for once in life. That sense of mastery is even further nurtured as you navigate the world of a game and invest time in it. Your first time playing through Dark Souls, you might die multiple times to the Taurus demon, but on your second playthrough, you know the gimmicks like the roof archers or being able to do a plunging attack. You can anticipate and dodge through its attacks and really take delight as massive chunks of its health bar fall off to your gold pine resin coated Zweihander. What was once difficult becomes easy, and within days of gameplay, you've learned mastery. So this is another need that's met by gaming, and an appealing one, to feel a sense of mastery and progression that can be difficult to achieve outside of gaming. The third why is leveling up. Gamification has become quite popular in recent years. It's the process of adding rewards, levels, or experience to tasks that are unpleasant in order to encourage us to perform them. It's taken from role-playing games where we might start off as a noob adventurer, but in training you slowly progress in a way that makes you more powerful and gains you different abilities with each level up. In games like Skyrim, the more you use a skill like brewing potions, firing off destruction magic, or sneaking, the more you level up that ability, making you better at the task and giving you ways to spend your perk points to improve even further. In other games like Baldur's Gate 3, based off of D&D 5th edition, you level up when you reach certain XP thresholds, and that XP and those level ups give your character new abilities, more spells, health, and opportunities to customize. Real life, on the other hand, is a bit more vague. I took up running around a year ago, and in the first month or two I saw real gains, but those gains quickly become hard to quantify or even start to diminish. Sure, you can have measures of improvement, things like pace or distance, but there's no clear leveling up in real life skills. Furthermore, in real life, progress isn't linear. You may go through seasons when you're learning a hobby when you improve greatly, and then others when that improvement stagnates. Secondly, leveling isn't permanent in real life. Again, back to the running example, currently I'm injured and just recovering, and it sort of feels like I'm gone right the way back to level 1. Whereas in a video game, you could level up your endurance, and then that's it, you can sprint for longer, and there's no way to lose that. In fact, part of the existential angst of aging is the gradual decline in ability, particularly physical, which compares to a gaming system where that time limit doesn't exist, we don't decline. And finally, levels in video games are tangible things that we can see, whereas in real life we don't know what level we are, either on a whole or in different skills we possess. There's just a vague subjective measure of how well we're doing. If someone said to you, "You're a good driver," it's difficult to quantify that. You could say, yeah, no, or kind of. If you're in a video game, you could say something like, my acceleration's at a 7, my speed's at a 5, my handling's a 9, and I was first in the last 2 races. So it gives us a way to quantify our progress. And maybe that's another reason you're gaming. A need to advance and level up that real life can't seem to provide. Next up, optimizing. And optimizing is closely related to leveling. Optimizing may be being efficient at a game. For example, if you're speedrunning by finding the optimal route to complete a level as quickly as possible. It may be in planning how you're going to develop and level your character, the stats you'll invest in, the items or weapons you want to collect, your build. The build that you choose for your character can fill a number of needs such as role-playing, challenge, transportation, and the achievement we can feel from reaching the goals we've set for our character as they level towards that ideal build. Like with leveling, optimization is much more vague or difficult in reality. In a video game, there are guides written and a finite number of options of how to develop to meet the meta. In reality, optimization is much more uncertain for specific areas, but also generally. Focusing our mastery on one thing can also mean sacrifices in other areas. We may, for example, be optimized to perform well in our working role at the expense of our family life, our fitness, or our hobbies. So gaming provides a path for optimization within a predictable, repeatable world, where we can save, reload, and pause to explore our options and adjust to alter our build. We can become invested in research around how to alter our character and join communities of others who have also optimized to succeed in the game. All of this being so much more accessible than optimization is in reality. So again, perhaps that's a reason you game, optimization. Our next reason is exploration. One pillar, particularly of RPGs, is exploration. The ability to enter a world different to our own and seek out new, exotic, novel opportunities. Maybe it's a complex RPG like The Witcher, where we're transported into an entire world of its own environment, history, politics, enemies and factions that we navigate as the protagonist, Geralt, and quests pull us to different areas. It may be that we play a game like Farming Simulator, that isn't an exciting swashbuckling adventure, but an opportunity to explore a different trade that is fresh and new compared to our normal life. We might be playing a more casual game like Sonic, exploring different stages set in different environmental themes like a casino or escaping a volcano, underwater levels, or sprinting through an airship. Exploration plays out for the player who goes and completes every side quest, who gets lost in the wonder of playing a game and discovering what it has to offer them. And it's a stark contrast to the reality of Western civilization. We can settle into one home in one city, find a routine in the same job. We can have a secure family. We can find that our habits and routine form similar activities. Sure, we may holiday every year or a few times a year if we're lucky, but even then, the exploration of a holiday and adventure, it's predictable and planned. Games give opportunity to explore a world without Earth's limitation. It's a world that unfolds in reaction to you, the protagonists, and it offers a freshness and newness to our everyday experience. So maybe that's the need you're meeting. You play video games for a fresh sense of adventure and exploration compared to the mundanity, the normality that life can often have. Another reason that we might play video games is role-playing. Role-playing is pretending to be someone else, imagining and acting from that person's perspective. You see it with tabletop role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons. You also see it with LARPing and with acting. And video games, they also give a great opportunity to roleplay, to be a different character to who you are, and to act and behave how they might do, embodying that character in a world that's totally different to ours. And a game will have its own world and provide choices of how to behave in that world. You know, in person-centered counselling, there's a concept called configurations of self. And the idea is that certain aspects of us are acceptable to certain groups, but not so much to others. Or it might be that we want to behave in a certain way, but we introject, we absorb that behaviour's not acceptable. And that can be confusing, and it can result in different parts of ourselves that we often don't get a chance to express or to experiment with. And in therapy, this might look like giving those voices inside of us a chance to speak and dialogue with one another. But in role-playing, it also gives those parts of us a chance to be acknowledged, to be symbolised. Let's say, for example, you're normally quiet, submissive, fearful. I wonder what it might feel like to play Ace Attorney, to play as Phoenix Wright, a defence attorney, cross-examining witnesses in a busy court and then screaming, "Objection!" as you confidently point out inconsistencies leading towards a guilty verdict. I wonder what that might feel like, to have that confidence and to have that decisiveness. And that's what role-playing does. Role-playing enables us to try out different aspects of ourselves. Sometimes we might play a character as our ideal self, a person that we live up to being, to feel what that feels like. And sometimes we might play a part of us that we're less comfortable with openly. We want to experiment with playing. Sometimes we role-play as a character who is radically different to us, so we can open up to our potential. And sometimes we might even role-play as a part of us that we're less accepting or we're shameful of, so that we can be that and to see how it is to express that part of us. So maybe that's a need you're meeting when you play games, a need to roleplay. The final reason in this video is testing morality. Video games give you an opportunity to commit atrocities that you would never consider in real life. Playing Grand Theft Auto and going on a rampage trying to get as many police cars chasing after you as possible by robbing and killing innocent citizens. Finding a bandit camp in Skyrim and then stealthily firing off arrows at them, killing them all off before they've even seen you, or Fusradaring Nazim across the Cloud District. Playing Undertale, defeating cute monsters only to find out your innocent protagonist has been decimating the monster's home, and then completing it and replaying the genocide run where you kill every single monster you can find and test out how that feels as the music steadily becomes darker and lonelier to reflect your character's loss of morality. testing our morality can feel quite destructive, maybe even evil at times. But if it's done within the safety of a fantasy world, maybe that's okay. The link between immorality in video games and if it can cause real-life violence or immorality has been very much debated and even demonized. There was a paper from 2019 by Oxford University. It was a big one. It had over 2,000 participants, and it was trying to be quite definitive to look at the question objectively through questions both from participants but also from their family. And they were trying to see if there was a link between violence in video games and real life misbehaviour. And they found nothing. They found no link between aggressive behaviour in teenagers and whether or not they play violent video games. So let's do some hypothesizing. Let's have a little think about some needs that might be being met if we're testing our morality in gaming. Firstly, testing out different configurations of self, including those that are less accessible, such as our immoral or violent sides. In Western culture, violence is almost never acceptable, except maybe in some sports, and yet it's deeply rooted in our evolution and our history. To pretend humanity has no interest in violence or aggression is to switch off a part of us, and in fully accepting every part of us, even the ones that are hard to accept, we can gain more control over them than if we just try and repress them and push them down. We can greet that violent part of us more as a helper rather than this raging barbarian within us. Secondly, it allows us to choose to be moral creatures. I don't steal, but is that because I morally object to it, or is it because I shouldn't, or because I can't due to law or consequences? In playing a video game where I can steal, and even get away with it, based in as a game mechanic, I'm able to experience a possibility of theft, and maybe that gives me a control of doing it in reality, knowing that I could steal but I'm instead choosing not to. Playing with the boundaries of morality enables us to own those boundaries, enables us to embody them for ourselves, and games allow us to play with it and to find our own sense of it. Finally, in acting immorally in a game, it gives me a vehicle for unacceptable emotional self-expression. You may have heard it suggested to you to have a go with a punching bag or to scream into a pillow when you're angry. How about channeling that rage into an online game of Call of Duty? Or being a murder hobo in black and white? Maybe this is a need you're meeting. Maybe you're testing, refining, expressing, developing, containing, owning your own morality in testing out ways that some might view as unacceptable. So that's the end of part 1. I'll make a part 2 playing Skyrim without crafts or merchants, and we'll cover even more reasons why you play video games within that video. Likes are always appreciated for the YouTube algorithm, and please really do feel free to comment down in the description why you play video games. I would be fascinated to read them and to just get a sense of what you gain out of gaming. I always say with comments, they're out in the public domain, so please be really mindful of confidentiality if you disclose anything that might have kind of therapeutic value or might feel vulnerable. Feel free also to contact me. My website is www.simonslistening.co.uk. You can click in the description and read the whole article and all the other points on there. And if you're based in the UK and looking for counselling, then feel free to get in contact. Anyway, thank you so much for listening, and look forward to catching you the next time when we can talk about some more needs that we can meet when we game.